Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Vice President Kamala Harris was slammed over the weekend for requiring campaign rallygoers, you ready for this, to present a government-issued ID in order to enter. Yes, this is the same Democrat presidential nominee who opposes voter ID laws. We got the full story on that. President Biden offered some more insight into why he dropped out of the presidential race. Yesterday, he had an interview with CBS News and said that his Democrat colleagues told him his campaign would hurt members of the party down ballot. We've got the full story on Joe Biden there. David Nicholas Dempsey pleaded guilty in January to 2 counts of assaulting police officers with a dangerous weapon, landing him a sentence only surpassed by Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio's 22-year sentence, according to a report from The Guardian. This is one of the J6ers who are still, court cases are still going on. They're still behind bars, still getting sentences. The U.S. Secret Service apologizes for breaking into a Massachusetts salon to use the bathroom before a Kamala Harris fundraiser. You're not going to believe this story on the U.S. Secret Service.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Can you say hypocrite? Vice President Harris was mocked online for requiring campaign rallygoers to present a government-issued ID upon entry, despite the Democrat presidential nominee being opposed to voter ID laws. Now, can you believe this? Ahead of Harris's rally, who, by the way, her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walsh, was joining her. This was in Arizona on Friday. Her campaign sent out an email advising that only confirmed RSVPs will be admitted. Well, that's pretty common. The email said that those on the RSVP list must present a matching government-issued photo ID in order to be admitted to the venue. This, according to a report by local media outlet KTAR. The exact site of the Phoenix area campaign event, which was first announced back on July 30th, was not revealed until Thursday. The email specified the event would take place at Desert Diamond Arena, which is about 15 miles northwest of downtown Phoenix, with attendees being admitted Friday between 1:30 and 3:30. The campaign reportedly said the Arizona Democrat Party would send out non-transferable invitations by email on Thursday afternoon to attend Friday's event. Now, as you can imagine, this candidate who has vehemently opposed any type of voter ID, when you talk about, for example, mail-in ballots, it's very reasonable, I think, that we have some type of requirement that those ballots, the identification of the people sending those ballots in should be confirmed. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, the Democrats have opposed that all along the way. They believe that requiring IDs will potentially keep low-income people who, and they're always quick to say, or Kamala Harris is always quick to say, people of color, that it will keep them from voting. I guess she doesn't care that it might keep them from attending one of her rallies, though. As you can imagine, after this hypocrisy was revealed over the weekend, X users began sharing screenshots of the email. For example, actor Kevin Sorbo wrote to his 2 million followers voter ID is racist, but you can't get into a Kamala rally without an ID. Nick Sortor wrote to his more than 448,000 followers. So let me get this straight. Requiring ID to vote is racist, but requiring ID to attend a Kamala Harris rally is not racist? Good question. These are good points. And if the media is ever able to get her to agree to an interview, I hope they ask her this question. Another user, Ian Hayworth, wrote, "You need photo ID to get into an invite-only Kamala Harris event, but not to vote." Gunther Eagleman wrote on X, "Kamala Harris requires photo ID to enter a private campaign event. Kamala Harris doesn't want to require photo ID to vote. Kamala Harris doesn't want to require ID before crossing our border. Weird." Fox News Digital reached out to the Harris campaign for comment. As you can imagine, no comment so far. Now, let's do a little history here. In 2021, Harris gave her first interview as vice president on the topic of changes to voting laws with this was Soledad O'Brien on BET, the Black Entertainment Network. Again, this is a lady who has fought hard to oppose requiring any type of voter ID. Harris suggested during the interview with BET that voter ID laws will make it more difficult for those voters who do not live near Kinko's or Office Max to vote. Here's the exchange, because I knew you wouldn't believe me if I told you this. So here's the exchange.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support?
I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't, there's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Again, I've never understood how you can make the argument that anyone in our modern world cannot get some type of ID. Because you and I know they can. You and I know that this is not a problem. This is not an obstacle. They just want to make it to be an obstacle. And evidently, again, the irony of this is that they believe to keep her safe, I would assume, that they have to have an ID to get into a Kamala Harris campaign rally. Back to this 2021 interview, not long after then candidate Joe Biden named Kamala Harris as his vice presidential running mate, Harris penned an op-ed in the Washington Post. It was on the 100th anniversary of the adoption of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the constitutional right to vote. Harris wrote, "That is, unless you were black or Latino or Asian or indigenous." And when the 19th Amendment was ratified at last, black women were again left behind. Poll taxes, literacy tests, and other Jim Crow voter suppression tactics effectively prohibited most people of color from voting. The vice presidential candidate at the time then tried to make a comparison to modern times. Harris accused Republicans of once again doing everything in their power to suppress and attack the voting rights of people of color. They're deploying suppressive voter ID laws, racial gerrymandering, voter poll purges, precinct closures, and reduced early voting days. She went on to name some of the other things. But again, she talked about Republicans deploying suppressive voter ID laws. But she requires those same suppressive IDs to get into one of her rallies. Again, the hypocrisy of this. Only Kamala Harris, only a Democrat. Other comments online about this says, one user identified as Say It Ain't So Johnny wrote, "If you're a legal U.S. citizen, you have a right to vote by showing up on Election Day with a valid ID and voting or requesting a valid absentee ballot and sending it in on time. If you can't do those things, then you should not be voting because you're either not a citizen or you're someone without the ability to think clearly. It's really that simple." And it is that simple. I've made the argument many times in the past. Anyone who wants an ID can get an ID easily. And there are not many people in this world who don't have an ID. Because, boy, when it comes to social services, when it comes to free government handouts, you think an ID has ever kept someone from not taking advantage of those programs? They somehow come up with a quick ID then, don't they? Another person identified as Rosa 1984 wrote, mail-in ballot voting should be the exception, not the rule, and voter ID should be required in order to get a mail-in ballot. We can never, ever allow the chaos and corruption which occurred in the 2020 election again. It was preventable, and it was preventable. No reason that we should have had the chaos that we had in 2020. Democrats seized the moment. They took advantage of a very difficult situation named COVID, and they took advantage of every single situation, every loophole that they could. They're not going to do it again. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutritionist. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. Fox News senior correspondent Chad Pergam had the latest fallout from new revelations about the Capitol breach following the release of 40,000 hours of surveillance video to Tucker Carlson on a special report. A California man was sentenced to 20 years for his role in the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol, the second longest sentence yet in hundreds of prosecutions of riot participants. You know, we often forget that there's still a lot of people being held, being detained in prison, waiting for their sentencing as a result of their role in the January 6th protest, 2021. It's been over 3 years now. These people, they have lost their jobs. Many have lost their families. They've lost their homes in some cases, all because of a weaponized judicial system and the Democrats still trying to make examples out of these people. David Nicholas Dempsey pleaded guilty in January of this year to 2 counts of assaulting police officers with a dangerous weapon, landing him a sentence only surpassed by Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio's 22-year sentence, according to a report from The Guardian. Prosecutors accused Dempsey of being one of the most violent members of the mob that, in their terms, their words, stormed the Capitol in protest of Congress certifying the 2020 election of Joe Biden. They detailed how this California native stomped the heads of police officers, stuck officers with makeshift weapons, including a metal crutch, poles, pepper spray, and broken pieces of furniture. Now, let me say this and be very clear here. If, in fact, he did this, if he touched a police officer, then he deserves the punishment. There's so many people, though, that got caught up in January the 6th, and it's almost ruined their lives because they simply entered the Capitol. In some cases, they just kind of got pushed along with the crowd. They went in, where they saw Capitol Hill police at the doors, holding the doors open, letting them come in. They go in, they take a few selfies, and they leave. Months later, even years later in some cases, because the federal government has been using our tax dollars to comb through video surveillance, thousands and thousands of hours, and they find out, they wake up one day to knocks on the door, and it's the Department of Justice officers, FBI, U.S. Marshal Service, in some cases Secret Service, knocking on their door and arresting them. Prosecutors say that this David Nicholas Dempsey used other rioters as human scaffolding, climbing on top of them to reach officers guarding a tunnel to the building, injuring two of the officers. Dempsey, who worked as a construction and fast food worker at the time, also attacked a fellow demonstrator who was attempted to disarm him, according to prosecutors. Again, if in fact he did this, then yes, he needs to be punished. U.S. District Judge Royce Lamberth told Dempsey, "Your conduct on January 6th was exceptionally egregious. You did not get carried away in the moment." I guess the judge is recognizing that some people did get carried away in the moment. Dempsey apologized for his conduct during the sentencing, told the judge that his actions were reprehensible, while also apologizing to the police officers that he attacked. He said, "You were performing your duties, and I responded with hostility and violence." Of course, it's easy to be repentant after you've been in jail for all this time. And you know that you're about to spend the next 20 years in jail, too. Dempsey had a previous conviction for burglary, theft, and assault in California after he attacked protesters peacefully demonstrating against former President Trump in October 2019. He served 200 days of jail time for that conviction, according to The Guardian. Prosecutors sought a 21-year sentence for Mr. Dempsey, arguing that he is political violence personified. His defense, meanwhile, argued that the government's sentencing recommendation was ridiculous and argued for a sentence of 6 years and 6 months. Attorney Amy Collins said it makes him a statistic. It doesn't consider the person he is, how much he has grown. Ultimately, the judge sided closer to the prosecutor's preference, settling for the 20 years for Dempsey, who has already been in prison since August of 2021. And we'll continue. They'll be, again, this was an extreme case, and I don't know if he deserved 20 years. Love to get your thoughts on that. Send me a quick text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. I don't know if 20 years was appropriate, but still, there's a lot of people who got caught up in the whole January 6th thing, and we're still, we're almost 4 years into this, and there's still a lot of people who haven't been sentenced yet, and they've been sitting in jail all this time. Moving on, President Biden offered some more insight into why he dropped out of the presidential race yesterday. This was during an interview on CBS News. He said that his Democrat colleagues told him that his campaign would hurt members of the party down ballot. Biden announced at the end of July, of course, that he was bowing out. Supposedly got pressure from the likes of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senator Chuck Schumer. He told Bob Costa that a number of his Democrat colleagues in the House and the Senate had talked with him about how he could hurt other candidates on the ballot. Here's Joe Biden.
Let's begin with your decision. You're at your home, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, late July with your family, and you make this historic decision. Tell me the story.
Well, look, the polls we had showed that it was a neck-and-neck race. Would have been down to the wire. But what happened was a number of my Democratic colleagues in the House and Senate thought that I was going to hurt them in the races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say, why did so, and I thought it'd be a real distraction, number one. Number two, when I ran the first time, I thought of myself as being a transition president. I can't even say how old I am. It's hard for me to get out of my mouth. And but things got moving so quickly, it didn't happen. And the combination was that I thought it was a critical issue for me, still is not a joke, maintaining this democracy. But I thought it was important. because although it's a great honor being president, I think I have an obligation to the country to do the most important thing to do, and that is we must defeat Trump.
They hate Donald Trump so badly, they'll do anything they possibly can to defeat him in November. This is why we have to rally, we have to vote, we have to turn out. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com. dawpickens.com. Senator J.D. Vance had a clash with CNN host Dana Bash yesterday. I got the details for you on that in just a moment. First, after all of the scrutiny that the Secret Service has been under since the assassination attempt on President Trump, you would think that the story out of Massachusetts over the weekend would be impossible to happen, but you would think wrong. The U.S. Secret Service has been forced to apologize to a Massachusetts salon owner after using her building's restroom without permission ahead of a fundraiser for Vice President Kamala Harris last week. Here's the story. The salon owner, her name is Alicia Powers, says that Secret Service agents put duct tape over her security cameras and broke into her building by picking the lock. They then allowed various people to use the salon's bathroom over a 2-hour period. Ms. Powers told Business Insider that she was aware that she had to close her salon, but was not informed about the Secret Service's other plans. Now, you can watch video of her or of Secret Service agents on the front porch of her business. You see an agent, it appears to me to be a female agent, who goes over to the door. They apparently check the door to see if it's locked. They notice the security camera because they look up directly at the camera. They walk back over. They kind of disappear for a minute. Then they come back. Evidently, they went to get some tape. They come back. They walk over to the camera. They move a chair. They step on the chair. They put a piece of tape over the camera, and, of course, it goes black. You can't see anything after that. What we learned from Ms. Powers through Business Insider, she said that they had a bunch of people in and out of her salon during the couple of hours that the event was going on. She said they had a bunch of people in and out during a couple of bomb sweeps again. Totally understand what they have to do due to the nature of the situation. And at that point, my team felt like it was a little bit chaotic, and we just made the decision to close for the day. Again, the footage from the salon's front door, her Ring security camera, shows you what happened after that. Ms. Powers told Business Insider that there were several people in and out for about an hour and a half just using my bathroom, the alarms going off, using my counter with no permission. She says, and then when they were done using the bathroom for 2 hours, they left and left my building completely unlocked and did not take the tape off of the camera. Now, the Secret Service says it's been in contact with Ms. Powers following the incident. The business owner said that she received an apology from the Secret Service Boston office. Melissa McKenzie, a U.S. Secret Service spokesperson, said, the U.S. Secret Service works closely with our partners in the business community to carry out our productive and investigative missions. The Secret Service has since communicated with the affected business owner. We hold these relationships in the highest regard, and our personnel would never enter or instruct our partners to enter a business without the owner's permission. Powers told the local media that an EMS worker, though, told her that the Secret Service agent in charge of security that day was telling people to come in and use the bathroom. The Secret Service told Business Insider that its agents would not have used the building without permission, but they acknowledged that an agent had taped over the camera. So some conflicting information there. So who do you believe, the Secret Service or the business owner? Evidently, though, the Secret Service must have admitted to some culpability here, as they did later issue an apology. Powers told Business Insider, whoever was visiting, whether it was a celebrity or not, I probably would have opened the door and made them coffee and brought in donuts to make it a great afternoon for them. But they didn't even have the audacity to ask for permission. They just helped themselves. The building's landlord, a guy by the name of Brian Smith, also interviewed, said no one gave the Secret Service officers permission to use the building or even enter it. Smith told Business Insider, me and my dad own the building, and I have a crazy, eccentric guy that lives upstairs. And he didn't tell the Secret Service they could use it, and I didn't tell them, and my father didn't tell them, and they had no permission to go in there whatsoever. Ms. Powers said a representative for the Secret Service Boston field office called her to apologize after Business Insider contacted the agency about the incident. She said, he said to me that everything was done very wrong. They were not supposed to tape my camera without permission. They were not supposed to enter the building without permission. So what do you think the proper action is for this Secret Service agent who did this? And they know who it is. First off, the Secret Service knows who the agent in charge was that day. Secondly, this lady has a clear video. Now, in the one that she posted and the one that I was able to watch online, she has blurred out the face of the agent so that you can't see who it is. But she knows who it is. And she has, the story goes on to say that she has shared the video with the agent's Secret Service superiors. So they know who it is. So my question to you is, what should the agent be punished? Or are these agents just allowed to do whatever they want to? Is there any scenario where that agent, first off, should have been allowed to put tape over a business owner security camera? She had that camera there for a reason, so that she could see what was happening with their business, with her business. This agent obviously knows that and tapes it because she knew that they were doing something they should not have been doing. No other reason to have taped that camera, right? And then for them to literally pick the lock of a business that was closed and locked, they just let themselves in? Should this agent be fired? Should this agent be allowed to do this type of thing? Again, I get it. It's an event, and you got to keep, and especially after the attempt, the assassination attempt of Donald Trump just a few weeks ago, you got to go the extra mile. But breaking into a business, is that even necessary? Love to get your comments. Send me a quick text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. I don't see any scenario where the Secret Service should get by with entering a business that they have not made arrangements to prior to. As the lady said, she probably would have opened the doors and welcomed them in, provided coffee, water, refreshments. But they just took advantage of the situation. I'm sure they have the attitude that, well, what are they going to do to us? We're the Secret Service. What can she do? I hope that somebody needs to be accountable for this. Somebody needs to be held accountable, or they'll just do it again. There needs to be a message sent to the superiors within the U.S. Secret Service that this is not okay. That, yes, we have authority to keep our protectees safe, but it's not okay for us to enter a building that we have not received prior permission to enter. Look, I support law enforcement, and these folks are asked to work under circumstances that I wouldn't do, but they've got to be held accountable, and particularly in times like this. Moving on, CNN host Dana Bash had a bit of a clash, I guess you could say, with Republican Senator J.D. Vance yesterday after he pushed back at questions regarding his comments about the childless women and pressed her about Vice President Kamala Harris not answering questions. Now, keep in mind, Kamala Harris has not given an interview or press conference since Joe Biden ended his re-election bid, and she became the apparent Democrat nominee. She says that she's going to. last week when she was pressed on this, she said that she's working on it, that her staff's working on it. So far, though, hasn't happened. So Vance called out Bash, saying that she had asked him 3 questions about a sarcastic remark that he made. This is the Catwoman remark that he made in 2021, but was not asking him about policy. Here's the exchange.
You've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that opened the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's middle facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
Kamala Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
I only asked you one question about that. I asked you about policies, and I was asking about the military record that you brought up. Nobody else did, of Tim Walz.
I think the media is going to learn very quickly that J.D. Vance is going to push back. J.D. Vance is going to challenge them. And he makes a good point, doesn't he? So Dana Bash is trying to continue to talk about this childless cat lady's remark that he made in 2021, when that has absolutely nothing to do with what's happening in our country right now and in this campaign. During this wide-ranging, is about 20-minute interview, Bash asked Vance about this his childless cat lady's remark, made several follow-up queries about whether Vance viewed Democrats as anti-child. She kept asking about the anti-child issue. And they have tried to just blow this comment. Again, it's 3 years ago that he made this childless cat lady remark. And they won't let it drop. And he makes a good point, doesn't he? There are a lot of issues that Americans want to talk about. A lot of issues that they want to know what his stance is. I don't know that most Americans care about his childless cat lady's remark from 3 years ago. They want to know what, if elected, he and Donald Trump can do about inflation, about the high cost of gas, about the cost of buying groceries, about the cost of their rent and their mortgage payments. These are the issues that they're concerned about. And what are you going to do about those? I don't care what you said about cat ladies. And look, nobody can accuse J.D. Vance of being anti-family. This man, he wrote a book about a dysfunctional family, yes, but still about the value of family. And he's very quick to point out that he loves his family and that's how he got through. And that's how he has been a success, because of his family values. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, Tony writes, Joey, I do not believe polls because a lot of Americans, like myself, don't even participate in polls. Plus, look what happened to Hillary, and she was up by 7 points when she got defeated. You're right, Tony. Polls are not that reliable anymore. And I don't know why that's the case. You could depend on polls to be pretty close. That's the reason, they'll factor in their margin of error of 3 or 4 percentage points either way. But I think people have gotten... they're more sophisticated now, and I think some people just love playing with pollsters. Albert writes, if Kamala doesn't show up for the debate, President Trump should have a blow-up doll with which cackles every now and then at her podium. In all seriousness, President Trump should keep the debate date. Donald Trump wanted to debate Joe Biden, and they had a couple of debates already planned. Of course, Joe Biden's miserable debate performance back in June is the reason he's not the candidate anymore. I can imagine that Kamala Harris is terrified because, remember, this is the lady who has trouble completing sentences just like Joe Biden did. Except what she does is she talks at least. Joe Biden just mumbles. Kamala Harris tries to talk, but she gets a word salad that comes out. And some of the ones I need to share that compilation. There's a compilation of her word salads that is just hilarious. I'll share that with you one day soon. But it's just amazing how she tries to sound intelligent and just says the same thing over and over. She'll key in on a certain word, and she'll repeat that word multiple times. Texter writes, Joey, I think Rob Reiner needs to play Tim Walz because they're both communist meatheads. Well, you've got a point there. This is in reference to maybe this was on Friday's show that we talked about that Steve Martin has declined the offer for Saturday Night Live to play the role of Tim Walz. And you know things are bad when you have comedians declining to play your role in a skit like that. Jerry in Landrum writes, hey, Joey, what if we just vote at the highway department since they're so strict there? After voting, they can punch our driver's license just like a lunch ticket. You may be onto something there, Jerry. Look, there's got to be ways to keep the integrity of our elections. And I think we're onto that. I think there's been a lot of improvement since 2020. Faye writes, read that Pence does not plan to vote for Trump. So guess that means he'll vote for Harris. What an outrage. This is the most important election in our lives. We can't continue to let this regime pick our pockets and give us back crumbs. This is a do-or-die situation for our country. In about 85 days, we'll know if our republic continues. Who in their right mind ever thought we'd be at this place? We must stand up and not let evil rule and reign. If we have to crawl, we must vote. And you're right, Faye. And Faye, if you're listening, I'd love to know where did you read this about Mike Pence? And this kind of thing just drives me insane. If this is true, and it wouldn't surprise me, there are others out there who are saying they won't vote for Trump regardless. Who are they going to vote for? And not voting is just as good as voting for Kamala Harris, right? Jennifer writes, I heard wise man VDH Victor Davis Hanson Saturday night, and he shed some light on the subject, and he's right. She writes, Trump and Vance need to be out there talking policy as much as possible before early voting, however they can, including debates. When I wrote the previous text, I was thinking that maybe Democrats might swap out these two, Kamala and Tim, for better candidates during the DNC, and like Biden, they would just be gone. But I guess Victor David Hanson is thinking that for better or worse, it's going to be Harris and Walz. Yeah, it's going to be Harris. I mean, there's not going to be another change. Democrats will not change. The name that's going to be on the ballot beside Donald Trump will be Kamala Harris. So we have to start focusing on her, not waiting for the Democrats to have their convention. We have to start focusing on Kamala and tell everyone that we come in contact with why they cannot vote for Kamala. We have to educate them about how extreme she is, how extremely leftist she is, and what it will do to our country if we have another 4 years of Joe Biden. And that's what we'll get. It'll be worse. Kamala Harris will be worse than what we've seen these past 4 years with Joe Biden. What a interesting story. A bottle was found last week in Safety Harbor, Florida, by Suzanne Flamant Smith while she was walking along the shore there, picking up trash following the hurricane. This, according to the story from WTSP News. She said, there was so much plastic, I'm like, okay, this is driving me crazy. She said on the third bag, as she was filling it up, that she noticed there was a glass bottle. She said that you could see that there was a note that appeared to be old. In addition to the paper, she said there were a few shells, a bullet casing, and a mini cannonball. Inside the bottle where she found the letter, it was written in cursive on an old piece of paper with the words United States Navy Amphibious Training Base, Little Creek, Virginia. The letter was dated March 4th, 1945. It said, "Dear Lee, received your letter yesterday. Was glad to hear from you. The writing faded, but it appeared to be a message from someone named Chris to his friend named Lee." WTSP, which was covering the story, noted that the Virginia Naval Base stands over 800 miles from the Florida town where the bottle was found, though it is now named Joint Expeditionary Base Little Creek, Fort Story. The Navy Public Affairs officer said, "We were established because with World War II going on, they needed a place to train amphibious forces like the folks who landed on D-Day or Normandy 80 years ago. The Navy cannot confirm the letter's authenticity since no last names were mentioned." WTSP reported, however, the Navy said that the letterhead appears to be from 1945. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.